Hello and welcome back to the Pride Pod here on a Tuesday night. I am your host, John Rollins. Welcome to everybody for a very special episode where we talk everything semifinal. We're doing things a little bit different this week. Luis is not available tonight, so you've just got me on my own. So join in the chat. I already see Rachel here saying LFG. Thank you, Rachel. Join in the chat. Talk with me. We're going to do some of what we usually do, so not everything. So we're actually going to give you guys 2 podcasts this week for the Pride. Obviously, it's a very special week with everything that's happening vis-a-vis us being in the final. And just, we need to do all we can right now for this team and all the content. I'm sure you guys are out there wanting to absorb as much content for Orlando Pride as possible. So today we are just going to do the review. Here we go. Let me bring it up here. Where's my? All right, I'm on my own, guys. Give me a second. I'm not as good as Louise at this, and I don't have my thing up. Here we go. Where's my screen now? Let's see if I could get it to show. Why won't you show? Don't worry about that. We'll come back. I'll get my agenda to work later. But as you guys should know, today's show, we are going to review the semifinal win, of course, and then we're going to talk NWSL Best 11. And of course, finally, we're going to talk Coach of the Year. This has been obviously, what a win that was to watch. I really need this to work. So give me 1 second. Let's see. I'm trying to get the highlights up here, and I'm struggling. I'm struggling hard. Give me 1 second, guys. Here we go. All right. I apologize about the delay, but I've managed to figure out. Here we go. This is our agenda for the today. We have the review of the semifinal, like I said, Best 11 and Coach of the Year. Of course, let's start off by talking about everything Kansas City. Apologies for the crazy start. Welcome to everybody who's in the chat. What an amazing game this was. I'm sure lots of you were there. If you were not there, you missed an historical day for the Pride, an epic game, and probably one of the best goals we've ever seen. So we'll talk all about that. First of all, I wanted to kick off with the lineups. As you can see here, for them, there was questions about who was going to get in. Labonta was like questionable. Obviously DiBernardo just coming back from injury and stuff. Dabinia getting in there. This is what we were looking for them on their starting lineup. The overall ratings here, you can see their backline not getting high ratings on FootMob. For us, it was pretty much as expected, except, there was questions around, is Summer Yates going to be able to start with the injury last game? This one, she did not get the start in, so she was coming off the bench later, but Adriana came back in. A similar lineup to what we've seen back for, obviously very familiar with this as the season's gone on. Let's get into the highlights and talk all about this epic win, because it was an amazing game. It was a little bit different to have 3 in the afternoon and us be at a Pride game. Luckily the temperature wasn't too bad, right? I mean, I think I was getting a little bit hot in the wall there. I'm sure some of us were, but if you're on the east side, you're in the sun. But a lot of people enjoying a nice shady Sunday afternoon game, 3:00. The crowd, I know there's mixed feelings on this. I love the fact that more and more people are interested and engaged in coming to Pride games. Would I like to see even more people for a playoff game of this magnitude? Of course. I think it was strange that a lot of the lower bowl was sold, but then there's a lot of space in the lower bowl. So yes, they opened more sections, but then some of the lower sections weren't really that full either. So I think there's like a little bit of a, always a discrepancy between tickets distributed and the amount of people that actually came through the gates for this one. The atmosphere in the wall was there. The atmosphere around the stadium was there. And you could tell, and the players felt that. And I think at the end of the day, for a semifinal, that's the most important thing. We can get bogged down in all the numbers if we want to, but the support was there. The players could hear us. They could feel our backing. And that's what we wanted. And that's what we needed in such a massive game as this.
From Orlando.
We're going to get into the highlights here right off the bat. Please drop your comments. I'd love to hear from you. Let me know what you think. We're going to talk all about who's going to KC later as well. Because look at the way Kylie Schramm just like laser eyes on Chewinga here. Like so aware of the threat that she could pose on the turn, giving her the space, but also marking her tightly. She's going to turn and you can see she's got her covered. This was something that we saw a lot throughout the game. And we really, for a player that had scored like in every game up until this point, this was a really good defensive performance from us to keep Chewinga as quiet as we did. Of course, she had moments. She's Chewinga. But, I think overall the defensive performance, I think there's actually Corey Dyke here getting it on her, not Kylie, but all of the back line did a great number and the midfield on their attack, and especially Chewinga. We got a couple comments. What's up, Juju? What's good, boss? Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you being here. He says, Allie had one hell of a game. Yes, she did. Love Allie Watt. We're going to watch that incredible assist in a second. Now, I don't know about you guys, but obviously at this point, my head didn't drop, and I don't think that the team's heads dropped. I think we knew that Kansas City, are a very good team, and we're probably going to get a goal at some point. To let them score first, never ideal. But the reaction is really what matters from the players. In terms of the goal itself, Harry puts in a ball, but really on this one, it's just a case that Corey doesn't track the Beanier's run or is just out of position enough. And it's a very good ball where she manages to get it round, past like far enough away from Emily and Kylie that they can't intercept it, and kind of in that middle space where Anna's not going to come out that far to get it. It was a very good ball by Michelle Cooper, and the Beanie, of course, is an excellent finisher. So this one, I think the only notes I have is just Corey was just a little bit out of position, didn't really track her player here. Wasn't the greatest start for us, but hey, like I said, what mattered is what we did next. When we have all these players flying up the field in the attack, we want one of our, Angelina or her to also be one of them pushing up as well and getting into those late runs in the box. And this is a box-to-box midfielder's goal if you ever see one. And that's really what Haley has been doing this year for us all the time. Is she's the box-to-box mid. She gets up and down all the time. Usually when she's up the field, it's not always in the actual box, but here she's in the right place, right time, and it was a really nice finish on a really nice cross. We got another comment. Rachel says, what's poised to set the offseason assist record? And I don't mean the reality show starring Ali Watt. Yeah, Ali Watt winning the offseason, both in the TV format and in NWSL playoffs as well. So we love to see that. I mean, we've talked so much about the threat that she can pose, and in these playoffs, she's a real danger. Jay Texas says, Ali tied for most assists ever in the playoffs. Yep. We also have, Barbara Banda, who's got a brace in the playoffs. I mean, we scored 7 goals in 2 games in the playoffs. Yeah, we've really, it's been exciting to watch for sure. Let's
transition.
So that's halftime. We go in at 1-1. At that point, I'm feeling pretty confident. Like obviously they scored, but we got one back. We've had a lot of chances up until this point in the game. I think let's look at the stats a second, and I'll show you. So overall, throughout the game, we had 13 shots. They had 20 total shots, but only 4 on target for them. 5 on target for us. They apparently had 5 big chances. We had 3 big chances. So a lot of the stats showing that Kansas City, obviously had their fair chances. I think a lot of those coming late in the second half that we'll talk about as well. But wasn't like entirely dominant. I think that first half was fairly even. But I think they did struggle to deal with a lot of our threats, as we'll talk about in a second. Let's get into Barb has now scored obviously 3 in 2 playoff games. She's on fire. She's in form, and that's what we need from this team right now. Alrighty, Rodolfo Chang says after 35 minutes, Pride dominated the game, and the other team, except the last 5 minutes plus 16 of overtime. Yes, definitely. I think we saw once our first goal went in, there was a lot of confidence, and then I think after this goal went in, obviously at that point, then they got to chase the game. They got to open up a bit more. KC, beginning of the year, couldn't defend like set pieces, couldn't defend much at all. And we're just really relying on all of that attack. Throughout the year, they have become more of a well-rounded team. They've been more defensively solid at the end of the year. They've been able to sit in and try and hit teams on the counter. But the beauty of the Pride is that we can hit you in lots of ways. We can do that too. Yeah, well, there was times here at like the end where we sat deep and we said, okay, now try and break us down and we'll hit you on the counter with Barbara. But there was other times where we pushed and we pressed and we got the team up the field. There's times where we hold on to possession well. I think we hear a lot of people say it, but it's true. This team, it can hurt you in lots of different ways, and we can play lots of different ways, and we can adapt. Whereas I feel like KC, when we removed a lot of the space, I think they struggled. Lola Bonta, other Bernardo, they just weren't really getting they weren't influencing the game the same way that like Marta was. They weren't being their creative stars weren't able to create the same way that we were. And I think a lot of that was the fact that we're adaptable and they're a little bit more linear. Rachel said the mic picking that up. Jay Texas says that pass by Kylie and that strike from Banda. Yeah, let's not underestimate. That was a hell of a pass from Kylie Strom, and that's, I think, it seems simple, but a lot of the time that's what the players are trying to do, and get their head up and look for Banda. Is she free? Is she open? Can she make a run? And that was one of those times where you play it right into her, and she'll turn. Rachel says they were missing low in the second half. Yeah, I think similar to what Rodolfo was saying, like when Lola Bonta came out, like there was really a lot less from them attacking wise. Like they just weren't able to create in that same way. And obviously she was partly injured. I have a lot of respect for her. I think she's an incredible player. Very similar sort of like role in their team to Marta'S in ours, that more established creative player in the team. And she just wasn't able to really affect the game as well as she has in other times of the season. And I think obviously that a lot of that comes down to our defense. Like Emily Sams in this one was doing an incredible job marking out Chawinga so that she wasn't able to like receive the ball from Lola Bonda. And I think overall, we just did a very good job of nullifying their main threats and not letting them play the game that they wanted to play. All right, let's carry on a few times. I mean, I've watched it on repeat a few times. I mean, what is there to say about the GOAT doing GOAT things? This is the best goal I've probably ever seen any soccer player do in front of me live in person. It was like watching slow motion. The way that she chopped, well, we know what she's gonna do because we know her, but the way that she chopped and left two of them on the ground sliding, that was just beautiful. And then she does it again for the keeper, and then she does it again. And it's just Marta is, there's a certain amount of joy and playfulness in the way that she's always played, right? And I think this year we gained to see a little bit that, the Jogo Bonita in her, like, and then sometimes she just does a few chops and it's like, okay, she goes past the player or she'll do a little, like a nice skill move or a turn or something. And the crowd will go, ooh, but it doesn't always lead to a goal. In this one, it was like the perfect moment of Banda released her up the field. And you're like, okay, Marta's like, one-on-one, what's she going to do? And not only does she take one down, she takes all four of them down and the keeper and puts it in the back of the net. And of course, this one blew up across the world. Everybody's posting it and sharing it. You've got like it to music. Kay showed me where there's like literally like a whole montage of them sliding to music. Like it's already a GIF, it's a meme. Hang it in the Louvre because this is an absolutely beautiful goal. And yeah, it was a joy to watch in person. And if you were there, I'm sure you turned to the person next to you and the look on your face of just like stunned amazement. I was actually standing next to a friend of mine from work who I brought to the game, and he was Brazilian. So he was just screaming Marta in my ear. But it's moments like this that make me really appreciate the game and just how beautiful and amazing it can be. And Marta is the perfect example of that here. She's the GOAT, and this is a GOAT goal. So let's get a few comments on this because I know you got some opinions on on this one. Rachel says, I know Chewinga goals in the Interco Stadium in 2024. Yeah, that's true. Chewinga hasn't been able to score. That is totally true. Rachel also says, I have watched this goal more than any goal ever. I mean, it's probably true. I have watched it a lot. And it gets better from all the angles. And it's just such a great goal. I mean, how could you not love it? Jay Texas reminded me of 2007 Marta. I mean, that's insane that you're talking about 2007 Marta. Like that's how long she's been in the game. That's how much she defines women's soccer. And the fact that she could still do this at 38 years old, it's unprecedented. Like, I mean, going into this season, we obviously expected, Marta to be there, but you don't always know, like, when is it going to get to the point where she, has to slow down and this year it seems like she's somehow accelerate, like she's taken years off her life from years before. Like she's somehow become an even better player, even more rejuvenated. And obviously a lot of that has to go with having all the players around her, and but also Seb and the role that he's put her in. He isn't asking her to do everything. He's just being like, go do what you do best and we'll do everything else. And when you free her up for that, you can just see these incredible moments and the passion and the way she celebrates. It was an amazing sight to see. Let's watch some highlights and see this goal a few times, huh? Rachel says there's 2 animations of it, 2 different I haven't seen 2. I've seen 1. I would love to see the other one. Best goal in Pride history, says J.A. Texas. Rodolfo Chang says the Spirit is going to foul Marta this weekend every time. She will try that again. Luis is going to be here later in the week to talk all about the preview of the final and talk Washington with you. So I'm sure he has some thoughts on that one. Jay Texas, the face of her teammates when they come to celebrate. I mean, Angelina's face is, hilarious. So she's just like, huh? What do you do? Rachel says, I love a good FU goal. I mean, it was a little bit, against Kansas City. We won't go into the whole, don't celebrate too hard, but she wasn't worried about that at home. Let's say that. Now, we've actually already started our extra time here. The highlights don't really show enough, I think, of how bad Danielle Chesky was in this game. Of course, a ref that we know throughout the year, we've seen many times. One that I think universally people agree is just not very good. I try not to, be too harsh on the refs, but I think she continuously gets calls wrong, and time management on this game it's questionable. It's questionable to the point of, is there other motives? And it shouldn't be that way. Now, I know we had injuries. I know players went down. You're going to add on time for that. But 12 minutes for a start is an insane amount of time, I think, for what the amount of injuries there were. I think there was like 2 injuries they were down for at least, probably 3 or 4 minutes. So maybe like 8 or 10. I think 12 was a stretch. But then not only to give the 12, to then do another 6 minutes after that. I've never seen that much additional time. Now, the ref is, when you're in additional time, they're supposed to like stop the clock. They're actually supposed to treat that as like the actual amount of time. So when anything happens in extra time, they are supposed to stop the clock. I don't know about you. I didn't see Danielle Chesky checking her clock that much. I think there was a lot of sort of this is how much time I think we should be having. But based on what was going on in the game, you know, it kind of seemed a little bit like she was trying to give Kansas City every possibility to get back into this one. Now, I don't believe, I don't want to believe there's any reason that she would do that except incompetence. I hope she doesn't have a grudge for us, but that amount of time was insane. And I don't think that you can have any justification. You give the 12 minutes, that's fine. You want to give a minute or so after the 12, that's fine. But 6 minutes more than the 12, it's just, you can't do that. So I think that's a major issue here. I think she shouldn't be reffing the semifinal anyway. We know we've seen her throughout the year. She's not a very good ref. So why is she reffing the semifinal? There was a lot of calls that shouldn't have been. Like she gave a yellow for a very weak challenge on Chewinga, and Chewinga rolled like Neymar, and she bought that and gave a yellow. She gave a yellow to Seb at one point. I mean, she gave Banda like a real talking to after like one slight tackle in the first half. It's just a lot of weird choices. She missed a lot of fouls too. I mean, that's something we've seen a lot. But Daniel Chesky, I think, Orlando Pride, public enemy number one, maybe. She's definitely someone that got a boo before the game and probably justified. So Jay Texas says Chesky versus Orlando is the true rivalry. Yep, there you go. Rachel says she never stops talking or blows the whistle at the wrong spot. That is also true. Yeah, she that's what I mean. It's like decisions and time management is like the worst combination of both from her all the time. Literally played an extra half of extra time. Yeah, I mean, we were extra time on extra time. Like there's people on watching at home that say they could hear us all screaming, "Blow the whistle." I've never screamed that hard at the ref to blow the whistle in my life. I don't know what she was doing, but that's enough on Daniel Chesky. We can only beat a dead horse so much, and we all know. But in the extra time, as we see the highlight here, they did get a PK. This is justified PK. Carrie, I think, just jumping up to block the ball, puts her arms up naturally, as a lot of players do, in front of her face. Ball hits her arm. Chesky misses it, of course, but then gets called back, goes to VAR, and has a look at it and gives it. So let's see that. I mean, if they'd have scored that, how angry would we be? Because this was in like the 106th minute. This was in the 18th plus minute of extra time. And, they get an opportunity. It comes out back across. Thankfully, it was an atrocious header on the back post. But if they'd have wrapped that up, I think we would be sitting here. I think we would be questioning into the league about what was happening. But this obviously still went our way. But it shows you sometimes when the ref adds time, it's often a case that, like, if the team, like, we were obviously, holding back, we're trying to end the game. We're thinking, okay, we got to do this for 12 minutes. You didn't think you're okay, I'll do this for 18 minutes. And the whole thing just, it's like, well, okay, you're going to give them another chance and another chance. And the ball went out like several times. The ball like stopped play. There was lots of time for Danielle Chesky to be like, no, let's end the game now. Okay, like now we need to end the game. And she just kept letting it happen. She kept going. I think they had like 3-4 attacks in that last sort of 6 minutes. So we don't like to see that. Obviously, Seb in the press conference, he talked about there were some issues and decisions. We don't know exactly, what he had an issue with. Probably a lot to do with the fouls or that were called or were not called, and also probably this extra time, the phantom extra time that came out of nowhere. So thankfully we get it done in a nail biting 3-2 win over Kansas City. We are, we beat them twice, and obviously we got the draw last time at home. So in the rivalry this year with Kansas City, we come out on top. But most importantly, we secure our place in the NWSL Championship, and we get to go to Kansas City and be at a neutral site. So this, for me, in a lot of ways, and I said this to a few people, this was like the final. Obviously, the final is the final, but if Kansas City had continued, a little bit better in their trajectory and ended up like second or third, like this could have been the final, and in a lot of ways felt like the final, even though it wasn't. Let me know if you feel similarly to that. And of course, now we got to go play the actual final against Washington Spirit. Luis is going to talk to you all about that, I believe, on Thursday. So make sure you join him for the preview pod of the final this week. I myself will be traveling on Friday to go to Kansas City. So drop in the comments. I know there's lots of people that are going. If you're part of the Facebook group, get involved in there. Ask questions about what are we doing, where are we going. We're definitely all going to meet up for a drink. And I'm excited to see you all in Kansas City. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait. If you got any more comments on the game, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. But I'd also say that a lot of people, I think, came to this game that maybe hadn't been to a Pride game, or maybe we're City fans and we're like, I'll go to this one. Like, this is because there's no game and this is the one to go to. Or maybe they're just not soccer people, or maybe they just wanted to come along and support the city or support, women's soccer or women's sports or whatever. And they're all leaving this game and they're all going to come back. Every single one of them. And that's because when you watch a game like that, it really, like, if you're not a soccer person, it gets you interested in soccer. It excites you. There's so much happening. The drama, the excitement, the celebrations. You've got Barbara, Marta, everything. And so this was a great advertisement for Orlando Pride. Massive shame that we are not now hosting the final. I love that we're going to be going to a women's specific soccer stadium. I think that's cool. But also, we technically have earned the right to host this game. However, that's just not how it went this year. So a lot of fans are like, whoa, are we not going to come back? What's going on? We're like, no, we got to go off to Kansas. Rodolfo Chang says, see you in Kansas City flying on Friday afternoon. Love that. Drop your comments if you're going to be in Kansas. Would love to see you all there. Alrighty, let's talk the next topic, guys, because so much is happening this week, Orlando Pride. Of course, we now have our best 11s. We talked about this last week, who we're voting for, who we thought was going to be in what. And this is where we landed. So let me know your thoughts on the best 11s. Of course, for us, the NWSL best 11, the first 11, we should say, because there's two. The first 11, or the best 11, including Pride defender Emily Sams. I think not surprising. We know how good she is, how incredible she is. She, I think, should win Defender of the Year. They haven't announced that one yet. I think they're doing like one a day from what I could tell. So on Monday, we had the NWSL Best 11. Coach of the Year was today. So let's see what, comes tomorrow and Thursday. I anticipate that they'll kind of be doing one a day. So let's see if Emily wins Defender of the Year, but she's in the best 11. Same with Marta and Barbara. Of course, Barbara up there for MVP, but also for, Attacker of the Year. There's Midfielder of the Year for for Marta as well as an option. Anna Morehouse, again, in the mix for Goalkeeper of the Year. All four of those in the best 11. And then Carrie Abello. Anna Morehouse was in the second best 11, which somebody explain that. We'll talk about that in a second. For the first best 11, just Emily, Marta, and Barbara. of course, justified. Like we said, all of them could win individual awards. I don't know what else to say on that. I think there was a little bit of U.S. women's national team bias in there. I think some of these players that were in the first and second 11 realistically haven't done much for their clubs, but maybe are getting some votes because of the fact that they're just U.S. women's national team. It's, I believe, a combination of like, the media and player votes and like coach and like votes as well, and like public votes. So there's a lot they bring into this, but I think some of it is heavily influenced by the masses, and they want to vote for their Rodmans, and their Smiths, regardless, who have had good seasons, but maybe not like incredible seasons that some of the other players may have had. So Carrie Abello and Adam Morehouse in the second best 11. Now, I don't agree with either of those. I think the issue was they just didn't want to fill the entire first 11 with Pride players because, in my opinion, Carrie Bello is the best left back in the league. She should be in that spot in the first 11. And then Anna Morehouse has literally broken multiple records this year. You know, the most, I can't remember exactly how many clean sheets it was in a row, but I think it was like 8 or 9, right? Maybe even 10 clean sheets in a row. I mean, the shutouts alone should put her in there. So I think, again, they just didn't want to put everybody from the Pride in one team. They wanted to spread it out, and they said, all right, we're going to go with Emily, Marta, and Barbara as the more favored 3 out of all 5 of them. I understand, but there's definitely arguments to say that those 2 should also be in the best 11. Let me know, your thoughts on this and where we landed. But I mean, it's just cool, isn't it? Like, let's for a second not underestimate the fact that we've got 5 players in this award. It just shows for the season we're having. There's other players that could have been included in here. I think Haley McCutcheon, like we said, is one that just isn't flashy, but arguably, I think, probably the best defensive midfielder or holding midfielder this year for any team. Yes, there's been other players that have done well, but for me, she is one that has been massively overlooked here for her work ethic and what she does. She might not be like the most traditional player there, or like, might not be the first when you think of defensive midfielder, might not be the first player that pops into your head. But if you look at what she's done and her stats and the way that she's played all year and her consistency, I think there's an argument to say that she perhaps should be in, second best 11 at a minimum, maybe even first 11. That might just be an outside opinion for me, but that's what I think. So this, of course, is wonderful. We love to see it. And everyone getting their dues, right? Everyone getting their dues. Now, there's still more awards to be announced. Like I said, coming up, we've got Defender of the Year. We've got Midfield of the Year. Of course, we're in contention to these things, and MVP. But we'll see. We'll see where we land on all of that as the week goes on. Rachel said, "There's always holding mid erasure with the best team." I mean, I agree. I think holding mids in general, like holding mids and fullbacks, get overlooked in awards all the time. Like, they're more likely to put like a whole line of center backs every week than fullbacks that they're getting in there and stuff in the best 11s. And the same with holding mids. They'll just we put in another attacking mid because they also play midfield. But really, if you're looking at it as like, let's build the best team we could build from that perspective, I think Haley is putting herself out there to say she is one of the best holding mids in the league for sure. Alrighty, then the big one. Let's talk all about it. Last thing today, of course, at 2:02 today, announced NWSL Coach of the Year, Seb Hines. Now, there was no question here. And I don't know, if they had chosen anyone else, we say, we'll riot, but we would have actually rioted. I think there would have been a serious inquest if they'd have picked anybody else for this job. For this award. Seb, what else can we say about a guy that we, all year we've praised him and what he's done with this team? Not only him, but in conjunction and his relationship and partnership with Haley has been incredible, and the catalyst that has turned this whole club around. Uh, of course, the two of them working together, but the fact that Seb has managed to get as much as he has out of this squad, both the players that were here before that he knew and the new players, I think don't underestimate that. Like, look what he's done with Marta this year. Like, he's created a way that Marta can play her best soccer. Just the way that he conducts himself and the way that he leads the team by example from a cultural point of view. I feel like he's somebody that players can always go and talk to. He's someone that is assertive but also friendly. I mean, I don't know what else to say about a guy that deserves this so much. I mean, just the fact that they played so well throughout the year alone should get him this award. But the fact that he's taken a team that was struggling so much and, lacked culture and lacked so many things, and then he has been a part of that and managed to then be the guy that turns it around, I think is incredible. A lot of coaches would say, like, this is broken, I can't do it. Seb had a vision, he had a plan, and with Haley together, the two of them have completely turned this team around. And he broke records this year. I mean, it's the most winningest coach in Pride, but there's records in NWSL, of course. Here we go. We have the most points in a season, most wins in a season, longest win streak, longest unbeaten streak. All of those records. The Shield, getting to the final. Was it ever going to be anybody else than Seb? And if it was, no, in my opinion, just no. So congratulations to Seb. He's an amazing guy, and we're really lucky to have him here. And hopefully this is just the first of many Coach of the Years that he wins. So it's awesome, and we can't be more happy that Seb won this award. Rodolfo Chang, Sebastian H is the Coach of the Year by 10 miles. That's right. Rachel, the other coaches would have rioted. Yeah, I mean, that's that. Yeah, like, I think it would have been like an inquest. I think there would have been conversations as to, like, what, like, who, like, that guy, like, yeah, sure, but, like, no, Seb. It had to be Seb. It was always going to be Seb. And Rachel makes a very good point here. Let's not forget about Giles. Let's not forget about Yolanda. Let's not forget about Paul. And you see in that speech, if you haven't, go over to the Orlando Pride Twitter, check out him getting, they did a sneaky on you, Seb. They sneaky announced it in front of him, and he gives a little off the cuff speech, and it's what you expect him to say. Is it's not just him. He's the guy who has to lead, but he's able to do that because of the way that the players receive him, the way they listen to him, the way that they've all worked together. There's no egos in this club. And I think a lot of that comes from Seb and Haley in the fact that they don't have egos, and they don't want egos, and they don't lead with egos. And I think the fact that he has managed to bring all of these players together in such a unified squad, I don't think I've ever watched a team that's like as unified as this Pride team is. They truly play for each other, and they truly, do everything for the badge and for the club. Yes, they care, of course, about, individual, achievements and being great themselves, but more than anything, they're doing it for the squad. And that is the sign of a truly amazing coach. Those are the ones that everybody wants to play for, because you go, I want to play for him, not I want to play for me. I want to play for him. I want to play for this project. I want to play for this club. And that's what you've seen. We've seen it time and time throughout the year. And that's a lot down to Seb and his team and Haley and everything that they've created here. So once again, huge congratulations to Seb. He deserves all the flowers. And hopefully this week we'll be giving out, more flowers. I think after Marta's goal, if she doesn't win midfield of the year, everybody will be raging regardless of when they voted. They'll say, give it to Marta just for that one goal alone. Alrighty, I have a few more things before I go. One thing is that Loud and Proud Orlando have joined Blue Sky. So if you're not aware of what Blue Sky is essentially it's like, the alternative to X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. So of course, a lot of people enjoy posting, and like myself on X, I enjoy it there, but there is a lot of issues with the platform. There's problems with bots, there's problems with a lot of, we won't go into it, but a lot of negativity, a lot of, horrible things that can happen on that app. And Blue Sky is more of like a happier alternative. Let's put it that way. It's great because it doesn't have a lot of the things that are problems with X. So it is blowing up in the world. Lots of people are joining it. And of course, there's a lot of Orlando Pride fans on there. There's a lot of people from around the club, from media in NWSL that are also on there. And Loud and Proud Orlando, we have joined too. So if you want to follow us on Blue Sky, we are at LPO podcast.bluesky.social. And if you want to follow me, I'm also on Blue Sky. I am jrorlando.bluesky.social. I'm going to try and post everything that I post on X, also on Blue Sky. And Luis, I know, will be doing the same for the LPO. So follow us on there if you have not. But as usual, we have all the other socials. You can find us in lots of places. You can find us on Facebook as Loud and Proud Orlando. You can find us on X as at LPO Podcast. You can find us also on Instagram as at LPO Podcast. And of course, you can follow me also on X at John Rollins OCSC. Super excited for this weekend. Like I said before, this is not your only Orlando Pride episode this week. We will also be doing an episode later in the week. Luis is going to be here, I believe, on Thursday to preview the final. He's going to get deep into Washington, look at their semifinal, talk about the matchups we expect to see, et cetera, all that good stuff. I want to thank everybody that was here today commenting. You guys are awesome, and I will see you all